But I was in a place called Bali many years ago with my wife and two of my little children. And they took us out, way out into the boondocks. And they took us to this village where, it was very sort of almost like going a couple of centuries. The women were all wearing just little loincloths and, all topless out there. And the men, most of them were walking around without any clothes on. And the people lived in these huts like they lived in ancient Polynesia. It was a very remote place. And there was a man, it was about a 75, 80-year-old man. He was lying down on the right at the entrance to this little village that very, very few Westerners had ever been to. And I asked, what was he doing there? He was just lying there and he was looking up. And so this was right on the equator. And they said, oh, he's a cloud maker. And I said, what do you mean? They said, oh, yeah, he makes clouds. And this was actually his, his position. He was like a kahuna, and he would just lie there. And they believed that he, with his consciousness and with his being in balance and with his energy, and whenever they needed rain or whatever, that he was the person that would bring it to them. And I've never forgotten that little old man lying there on the ground, just looking up into the sky. And everybody treated him with great reverence. He would be rain or be clouds, and be one with them, because he would say, you don't ask for rain. Greg Braden talks about this in one of his earlier books, I think The Isaiah Effect, that you don't pray for rain, you pray rain. Praying for rain makes the assumption that it's not here and that it's something that, will come in the future. Praying rain means that you become in harmony with it. You become one with it.
Right, you actually feel the rain and the smell of it.
Right, absolutely. You experience same with healing. You don't pray for a healing. You pray health. You just become health in your consciousness, and then you balance that inner body with the outer body. At the beginning, when things like synchronicity used to show up and you have a thought about something and then it works out, or you put your attention on something and the universe seems to be moving the pieces around in such a way to facilitate what it is that you're attempting to manifest or create. In those days, I used to go, ooh, booga. My favorite line was booga, booga, booga. What's going on here? How could that happen? After a while, when you start to realize, as you raise your own vibrational level and become more aligned with God, more aligned with Source, and it becomes not just something that, you're connected to, but something that you are, and you feel it, you almost begin to say, of course, this is what I put my attention on. I'm aligned with God. I know that it will work out. It isn't even that I expect and hope that it will. You go to a place within where it's already happening. And I think what has happened probably over the years is I've just become much more peaceful about it. Even when I go on stage and give a lecture, and I just got back from a tour of Vancouver, which was just so wonderful. And then I went to a place called Vernon, which is out in eastern British Columbia, which is one of the most magnificent places I've ever been in my life. It was just snow-capped mountains and beautiful lake, and stayed at a place called Sparkling Hills up in Vernon. It was just stunning, nicest hotel I've ever been in. And then I lectured again to a group of people who want to be speakers in Santa Clara, California, just a few days ago, and just got back. And each one of those, I kind of go out there and, you know what it is, Rick? I just think I'm at peace with all of this. I used to maybe trying to convince myself that it was true, and in doing so, a lot of people who stay on this planet for a very long time just continue to reinforce the kinds of things that don't work for them. And they just keep thinking that same way and thinking that same way. No, it comes from transformation. It comes from shift. The word transformation is interesting. It's like if you put the word, right in the middle of the word transformation is the word form. And form, of course, means physical, and it means all the stuff that we have. And all. Transform means to go beyond form. That's when you begin to realize, if you start having the awakening that you are not this body, that you're in many bodies in this lifetime, but the I is the part that is birthless and deathless and changeless, and you start living from that place. And I must say that, having 8 children, some of my children, when they were very, very young, 3 and 4 years old, already knew that. And have been incredible teachers for me, and others of my children are still behaving in the same ways that they did 25 years ago. I think it's much more about transformation. It's about recognizing that who we are, our spiritual essence, is our truth, that our bodies are not, they're just houses, they're just things that we live in, And who we are will occupy those houses in a healthy and productive and sensible and, worthwhile way if we shift the energy of our lives. And those shifts, for me, those shifts took place when I went to my father's grave and was able to forgive him back in 1974. That was a major shift. In the last 20 years, there have been major transformations that have taken place. The diagnosis of, I had a heart attack, the disease, my wife and I separated. Those kinds of moments just trigger something inside of you. And you start to realize that, I have a purpose. I've got something that I got to do here. And then you just have sort of a knowing about it. And then you become used to the idea that you really have God within you at all moments, at all times, that you are God. And once you get that, then you're not busy trying to convince other people. And that's what the loudness is. And that's what all that external stuff, it's the emphasis on the outer. I've got to dominate somebody else. I've got to prove that they're wrong. I've got to really make my point. I don't feel like I've got to convince anybody. I just hear talking and, doing what I do and believing in it.